राधा मदावा कुंजा विहारी जय राधा मदावा कुंजा विहारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरदारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरदारी यशोदनंदना व्रज जनरंजना यशोदनंदना व्रज जनरंजना यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी राधा माधवा कुंजा विहारी राधा माधवा कुंजा विहारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरदारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरदारी यशोदनंदना व्रज जनरंजना यशोदनंदना व्रज जनरंजना यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी राधा माधवा कुंजा विहारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरदारी यशोदनंदना व्रज जनरंजना यमुना तीरा वनचारी राधा माधवा कुंजा विहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे जय राधा श्याम सुंदर राधा श्याम सुंदर राधे जय राधा श्याम सुंदर राधा श्याम सुंदर राधे जय कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम जय जगन्नाथ जय बलादेवा जय सुभद्रा जय गौरानिता जय गौरानिता जय गौरानिता जय गौरानिता निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल जय सच्चिनंदन जय सच्चिनंदन गौर हरे गौरा गौरा गौर हरि गौरा गौरा गौर हरि निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय जय प्रभुपाद प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद तय गौ प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि गो एवं विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राज काचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतश्री श्रीमती श्री भक्त वेदांत सांस्कृपाद की जय एवं विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राज काचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतश्री श्रीमती श्री भक्त सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की जय। रमाचार्य सरदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्री वासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। ब्रजभूमि श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय। श्री क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। गंगा मई यमुना माई की जय। भक्ति देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंद हरि हरि बोल। All glories to the assembly devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembly devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembly devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories, all glories, all glories, Shri Guru and Gauranga, Gauranga. All jai. ओम विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण विष्टाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी निधान नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवाद पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। Thank you for joining. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Creation, title, Chapter 2, title Divinity and Divine Service, verse number 19. The chant, repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayat nasta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama bhaktir bhavati naistiki. Hari Om Tat Sat. Canto 1, Chapter 2, verse number 19. Tada rajastamo bhava kama lobhada yaschaye chetayetay anaviddham stitam sattve prasidati. Tada rajastamo bhava kama lobhada yaschaye चेतयेतैरनाविद्धं स्थितं सत्त्वे प्रसीदति. तदा रजतमो भावः कामलोभादयश्चये चेतयेतैरनाविद्धं स्थितं सत्त्वे प्रसीदति. What translation? Synonyms. Tada, at that time. Raja, in the mode of passion. Tama, the mode of ignorance. Bhava, the situation. Kama, lust and desire. Lobha, hankering. Adaya, others. Cha, and A, whatever they are. Cheta, the mind. Etai, by these. Anaviddham, without being affected. Sthitam, being fixed. Sattve, in the mode of goodness. Prasidati, thus become fully satisfied. Translation by Sri Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of the nature's mode of passion and ignorance such as lust, desire and hankering disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness and he becomes completely happy. Please repeat. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of nature's mode of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness and he becomes completely happy. We'll try to understand this verse. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmiritam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langete girim yatkrupatamham vande Sri Gurum Denatarana Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanyeswaram Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhu bhayevacha पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। वैष्णव की जय। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। श्री चैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं। श्री रूप गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय। प्रभुपाद की जय। गौर भक्त की जय। So we are discussing from Canto 1, Creation, Chapter 2, Divinity and Divines are very, very important chapter, establishing the foundation, and the answers are given. There are 6 questions asked in the first chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the question by the sages. Questions by the sages. The sages are Saunaka and other rishis assembled in Naimisharanya asking the 6 questions. What is the ultimate good for the people in general? Because of temple programs, we couldn't continue the class for the last few Saturdays. So we're starting now again. So the first chapter, the 6 questions are asked by Saunaka and other rishis assembled in Naimisharanya asking to Sota Goswami, because he has heard the message from Sukadeva Goswami in that assembly. So when Sukadeva Goswami, Srimad Bhagavatam actually begins from there. Actual story starts there. When Sukadeva Goswami speaking to Parikshit Maharaj is about to die. Then Sukadeva Goswami spoke for 7 days. So in that assembly, Sota Goswami was there. So that's so begins the whole Canto 1 is Sota Goswami asking these 6 questions. In response to those 6 questions are addressed in brief in this chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4. But in great detail, the whole Srimad Bhagavatam is an address to those questions. And we see these question answers, Srimad, just like Arjuna's asking questions to Supreme Lord Shri Krishna and Bhagavad Gita. Whole Bhagavad Gita, I think we have 20 to 30 questions. Almost in a chapter 1, 2, some places 2 or 3 also are there, and some chapters no question, but Krishna is responding because of previous question Arjuna was asking. So the same way here also, the Canto 1 starts with that, with Sota Goswami asking question. Saunaka and other rishis assembled for Kali Yuga is about to start, 1,000-year sacrifice they are about to start. And then that's when they at some time, not just in the beginning, but after some time they started asking these questions too. Thinking how Kali Yuga people will be delivered. They are seeing the faults, and the age will be only 60, 70 years, at the most 100 years. In Kali Yuga, people will live short-lived mind, they cannot remember things. So many drawbacks are there, deficiencies are there. So for their benefit, so they started asking these questions. So and then Canto 2 onwards, Parikshit Maharaj Sukadeva Goswami conversation. Canto 3 onwards, Vidura and Maitreya's conversation. There are so many parallels, but these are the big ones. Sukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj is the first one. Within that assembly, Sota Goswami was there. That is the second one. And then later on, Viduras and Maitreya's comes. And then like that, there are many other conversations within this Srimad Bhagavatam. Many other, but they are shorter. But longer ones are these, especially Sota Goswami to Saunaka and other rishis, Vidura and Maitreya, and then Sukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj, which goes all the way till the end, at least the first, and Sota Goswami and Sukadeva Goswami. Coming back to the 6 questions, they asked, what is the ultimate good for the people in general? First of all, before that 6 questions, there are 3 things are established in Srimad Bhagavatam, beginning with how creation, maintenance, destruction, everything is coming from the Supreme Lord. And is also establishing the Sambandha Gnan from the first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It is also telling the actual divine rasa. All the rasas are coming from the Supreme Lord. Original conjugal love is also coming from the Supreme Lord. Raso Vaisaha, Krishna is called Rasaraj. So then second verse is establishing the Abhidhe. Sambandha Gnan means what is the actual relationship between the living entity, the spirit soul, Satchidananda Vigraha, full of eternality, full of knowledge, full of bliss, and his relationship with the Supreme Lord is also eternal. So that is called Sambandha Gnan, spirit soul to super soul. Supreme Lord, we are minute, the Supreme Lord Ishvara is the supreme control. We are the minute creator, minute enjoyer. But he is the supreme control, supreme. We are called actual, our identity is cooperator, our identity is servant of Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. So that was the Sambandha Jnana was established in the first verse. The second verse is also establishing the Abhideya, how to act after knowing that relationship. And the third verse is teaching also what is the ultimate goal, attaining Krishna's lotus feet, attaining to our original position. So that is the Golok Vrindavan, that is the Vaikuntha Dham, where there is no anxiety, actual original place. This is a temporary place. So that is the first 3 verses, and the rest of the verses, 22 verses or so are there. So these 6 questions are asked. What is the ultimate good for the people in general? That was the first question. And what is the essence of all the scriptures? And that was the second question. Why did Krishna appear in the womb of Mother Devaki and Vasudha? That was the third question. And then fourth question was, please explain the pastimes or explain the incarnations of the Lord related to the Gunavataras. As this verse is describing these gunas. Similar compared to mode of goodness, passion, ignorance. Passion is Brahma because he is creating. Ignorance is destroying, annihilation. That is Lord Shiva is taking in charge, and Lord Vishnu, Mahavishnu is in charge of the maintenance, is the mode of goodness. These were 3 modes, and that is they are called Guna Avataras. So then the fifth question was, please explain the Leela Avataras, the pastimes of the Supreme Lord come to Leela Avataras. And then the last question, why did Krishna, when Krishna left the planet, where did all the religion take in shelter? After Krishna left the planet. So this is the end of Dwapara Yuga. So these are the 6 questions. Now in response to that, second chapter, that's why it is called Divinity and Divine Service, establishing the actual divinity and then understanding the actual supreme absolute truth. What is that absolute truth means? Is it impersonal? Is it the Lord doesn't have form, or does it have form? Does he have form? So is it Paramatma? Is that the highest understanding? No. So all those things are described in this particular chapter, basically. So that's why it is called Divinity and Divine Service. Understanding the full form of divinity and acting, serving the divinity, divine form. So that's why this chapter is titled Divinity and Divine, and how to do that. So that's why we are now in the 19th verse, where systematically, so it is explaining that what is the, first of all, immediately the answer is given, what is the ultimate good for the people in general, 1.2.6, where it is mentioned, all we need to do is engage in Bhagavad Dharma. Srimad Bhagavatam is teaching the most important, highest Dharma. What is that? It is called Savai Pumsam Paro Dharma, the topmost Dharma. Paro Dharma, Yato Bhaktir Adokshaje, Ahaituki Apratayata Yatma Suprasiddhat. The topmost thing living entity, the practitioner, sadhana, jiva should do is engage in service of the Supreme Lord Adokshaja. One who cannot be understood by the blunt material senses. That is called Adoksha. Ada Akshaja Gnam Adokshaja. So the Lord's one of the name. So that's why we cannot see with our current eyes, because we are currently conditioned, as in this verse it is explained. Tada Rajastamo Bhava, the passion and ignorance covered. So that's why we are not able to see the Lord unless we are coming to the fiery quality. If you want to enter into fire, can we enter? Will be burned. Unless we come to that fiery quality, then we enter, then nothing happens. So in the same way, so unless we come to that pure state of consciousness, then we can see, we can talk, we can communicate, and we see the examples in this canto itself, starting with Narada Muni, Bhishma Pitama, one by one examples. That's why Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, not many instructions are directly from the Supreme Lord, lotus mouth of Supreme Lord, but Srimad Bhagavatam is about the Supreme Lord. That's why 10 subject matters are described in this Srimad Bhagavatam. Each canto is the actual form of the Supreme Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam is non-different from the Supreme Lord. The first canto and second canto are called the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So that's why it is very important. Even if you don't have any deities, if you have Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Canto 2, you can worship, you can offer tulsi leaves, you can offer flowers, you can offer arati, everything you can do. Obviously, you cannot feel like the deity Archa Vigraha, threefold bended form and all, but you can worship, you can offer everything, all those things you can do still, Srimad Bhagavatam, because it's not different. Coming back to the point, yes, so the first answer to the first question is ultimate good for the people generally is engage in Bhagavad Dharma. That is basically Srimad Bhagavatam is teaching the highest Dharma, which is the two things. There are two aspects. One is called Bhagavata Vidhi, another called Pancharatrika Vidhi. Bhagavata Vidhi is especially Sravanam and Kirtanam. So these two things are the primary aspects. So that's why for Kali Yuga, Yuga Dharma itself is chanting the holy name of the Lord, Kirtanam. And hearing, when we are chanting, we must hear very clearly, pronounce clearly and hear clearly. That's all, nothing else to be done while chanting. We should carefully, attentively listen what we are chanting, not somebody else is chanting, what we are chanting. So just the Hare Krishna, we don't need to know the meaning and all. Yes, it's good to know, but even if we don't know also, we should, just simply chanting and hearing will really benefit, actually purify, come to that higher standard. So as it is mentioned, Nitya Siddha Sadhya Kamanoi Sravanadi Suddha Chitte Karai Uday. Automatically our original consciousness will be revived, will be awakened by this Sravanam and Kirtanam. It is like the pouring the water at the root of the tree. Yatataroromola Nishechanena Skanda Bujopasaga Pranopahara Tetendriyanam Sarvahanam Machujejja. As you pour the water at the root of the tree, all the branches and the leaves, twigs, everything gets, you don't need to separately water. Automatically everything, the whole tree becomes alive and gets the energy. Same way, by simply offering, by engaging in this Sravanam and Kirtanam, the pouring the water at the root is like the Sravanam and Kirtanam. So by that process, that is called Bhagavat Vidhi. That is the topmost important is associating with devotees, chant together, associated with devotees, here Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, transcendental topics, associated with devotees, engage in feasting, dancing. So this is the whole process of Bhagavad Dharma. Very simple process. It just we need to just understand a little bit so that it becomes, and then follow it slowly and gradually, increase it, our attachment or love for Krishna and his devotees. That is this is the most simple process. So that is ultimate good. That is the first answer. And then gradually the other answers are given. Since we are discussing now the today's verse, I have to come to that 1.2.19. So it is mentioning, verse is mentioning, Tada rajas tamo bhava kama lobhadayesche chetayeter anaviddam stitam sattve prasidat. Basically, the context of this verse is how to attain that highest. The Supreme Lord is in the three form, in three realizations we can understand. One is the Brahman realization, impersonal realization. When somebody says God doesn't have form, Nirakar, means he doesn't have form in the sense that he is pervaded everywhere. He is there in every atom. That's why it's called Brahman, Parabrahman. Because again, when you say Brahman, then people will have questions, confusion. Because we are also called Brahman. So that's why he is called, Supreme Lord is called Parabrahman. We can only know what is going on in our, but Parabrahman knows everything, everywhere, what is going on in everybody's heart, what we are thinking, what we have done in the past lives, everything. So that he is called Parabrahman, but we are only called Brahman. So in that way, Brahman realization means the first understanding, the impersonal realization, Brahman effulgence. Between the material world, spiritual world, there is a area that is called Brahman effulgence. So that Viraja river is also called. We cross when we 100% purified, then we enter, cross over that Viraja river, cross over this Brahman effulgence and enter into the actual spiritual world, Vaikuntha Dham, where there is no anxiety. So that is what is expected. So for that, the process is given. Now, that is Brahman realization. Next is Paramatma. Yogis are meditating on the super soul. That super soul is also, this Brahman realization is only temporary, means not temporary, it is only those who are entering, meditating on this impersonal aspect, those who are jnanis, those are research scientists, those are in that philosophical thing, not worshipping the actual personal form of the Lord, they will enter into Brahma Jyoti. Brahmavadis enter into Brahma Jyoti. Then they fall down from there because that there is no variety, there is no rasa, there is no melos, there is no exchange with others, especially with the Supreme Lord and others. So that's why they fall down, because there should be activity. Living entity, soul means there is activity. Nobody can sit idle for even a day. And so that's why they fall down from there. Again, come back to this material world. So that's why it is not permanent. Okay. Then the next one is the Paramatma feature, which is the super soul. This super soul is only in the material world. It is not in the spiritual world. Okay, Paramatma is there because he is guiding us. He is there in each and every. Otherwise, we cannot even live. Paramatma, minute any living entity, you take the smallest ant or the highest demigod, Brahma, all of them as demigods are also being guided by the Supreme Lord as a super soul. Krishna is mentioning in 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, in many other places. I am the one who is actually, if somebody is asking for various things, desires, approaching demigods, I am the one who is actually granting those desires through those demigods. Ultimately, I have to sanction. Without the Lord sanction, Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna, they cannot give even that boon. So that we have to understand clearly. Bhagavad the 7th chapter, Krishna is explaining this. So that is Paramatma. So Paramatma, those who are yogis are meditating on this super soul. Yogis are meditating on this Paramatma feature. They will merge into the Supreme Lord's abdomen. So that's what will happen. Again, they also from there also fall down. So because there is no personal worshipping, exchange of rasa is entering into abdomen. So that is also not eternal. So the last one is the personal form of the Lord. Those who are worshipping the personal form of the Lord, they will enter into Vaikuntha. So that these are explained in the 1.2.11 verse. Now to come to this process of Bhakti Yoga, to come to attain this Krishna Prema, attain this going back to original place, back to Godhead, Vaikuntha Dham, Golok Vrindavan, then what is the process? The process is explained that practitioner must follow these 10 steps. So starting with Adav Shraddha, one must have a faith. So as mentioned, Rupa Goswami is giving, and these 10 steps are laid out from the verse numbers 15 to 21. Verse number 15 in this chapter, two very important verses. We are in the 19th, we are in the middle. So this verse is talking about, today's verse is talking about the stage of Ruci. So Nishtha, Ruci, and the Ruci, stage of Ruci, and little bit of Asakti, especially Ruci, taste. So the Rupa Goswami is mentioning that Sadhakanam ayam premno pradurbhavet krama Adav Shraddha tata prema abhyudanchati. Sadhakanam ayam premno, then Adav Shraddha tata sadhu sargo tata bhajana kriya anartha nivrittisya tata ruci tata nishtha tata ruci tata asakti tata Krishna prema. So these are the 10 steps. First one is Adav Shraddha, starting with faith. One must have faith, otherwise not everybody will going to come to Krishna to worship Krishna. That is not going to happen. That Krishna himself is saying in Bhagavad chapter 7, Manushyanam Sahasreshu. Because they must have a pious credits, not ordinary pious credit, not karma unmukha sukruti, not even bhoga unmukha sukruti, karma unmukha same thing, moksha unmukha sukruti, still they will not come. But only when they have bhakti unmukha sukruti, then they will come to this path of Krishna, approaching Krishna. Otherwise, it is not possible. They must have these bhakti unmukha sukruti pious credits, not ordinary credit. Then they will worship demigod and other things, but not Krishna. So that is the reason why you don't see too many people worshipping Lord Krishna. So anyway, so coming back to this Adav Shraddha, first one must have faith, then Sada Sadhu Sangha. Then once they have faith, then they will start associating with devotees. That is the second stage. And then the next stage is Tata Sadhu Sangha Bhajana Kriya. Bhajana Kriya means once his faith is increased, then they will surrender, just like Arjuna surrendered to Supreme Lord Shri Krishna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Same way, the devotees also at some point they realize that this is the very important process, mandatory. It is actually Shastra is giving mandate. Tasmat gurum pravadyeta jignasau sreyamuttamam. If one somebody wants to actually attain Krishna prema, wants to reach, increase or advance in spiritual life, then it is a mandatory for them to approach a spiritual master and surrender to a bona fide spiritual. Tasmat, therefore, tasmat gurum prapadyeta. Prapadya means prapanna means surrender. Guru means bona fide spiritual master in a bona fide sampradaya. Jignaso Srematam. Why? Because to inquire about the supreme absolute truth. What exactly is absolute truth means? What it entails? What are the energies of the Supreme Lord? What are the incarnations of the Supreme Lord? Who we are? What is our relationship? What is the process? How we can attain? What are the different steps? How to practice day to day life? So all these things are depending on which ashram we are in, which varna we are in, how to practice it. All these things are in great detail described. But to understand, we must be in the association of devotees and hearing from the devotees. And we must seek the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master after some time. When we start associating after hearing, then gradually Krishna will reveal when we are ready within the heart. More and more, we can see that inquisitiveness and more and more we want to surrender. We want to be just like the Vibhishan has surrendered. He left Ravan and he came to Lord Ramachandra and then surrendered himself. He said, I'm ready to surrender. And others told, no, he's coming to fight or he's coming for something else. But Lord said, no, whoever comes and surrenders, then I'm ready to give my full blessings and ready to give everything. So I'm fully with them. So that Sakrudeva prapanno tavasme chayachate abhayam sarvada tasmai dadami etad vratam mama. I'm giving full assurance. I'll take all the sinful activity. So that is the assurance Supreme Lord Ramachandra, Lord Krishna is giving. So that's why the process is that's why one must surrender to a bona fide spiritual master at some time. That is the third stage. It is called Bhajana Kriya. Actually, that's when the actual real seed of bhakti is sown in the heart of a practitioner. Until that, it is like the fertiling the ground of the living entities. So this body is like the place. It is mentioned. Place of action is called body. The living entity, jivas, this actual gross body is like a place of action. You take a land, before you sow the seed, you grow some vegetables or anything, even in your home or in a agricultural land to grow rice or whatever. Then you need to till the land, you need to make it fertile, keep it ready. Then you sow. Otherwise, even if you sow something, nothing is going to happen. It's not going to sprout. So that is why the bhajana, before coming to bhajana kriya, there is 6 months parascharya. The Shastra is also calling that 3 months to 6 months minimum. The process, so that we understand what we are supposed to do. It is not a joke, it is not a casual thing. Spiritual master, everybody has, I also have spiritual. It is not, it is a serious thing if we want to advance in spiritual life. That is why it is in the third step, it is not in the beginning step. So that's why it requires fertility. So by the time once all the preliminary sinful activities are removed, that's when the Paramatma is revealing to the living entity. You are ready. You should surrender to this spiritual master. You should surrender now. It is about time. Time has come. So Super Soul reveals when the first preliminary sinful activities are removed. So there is the first, even before that, there are the first level of sinful activity. That's when we come to Krishna. If that is not even gone, then we cannot even approach Krishna. That's why not everybody is going to approach. 7.27 or 28. Esham antagatam papam jananam punya karmanam. When the sinful activities are removed, that's when somebody is approaching Krishna. That is the first step. Then the next set of sinful activities is removed, then he is surrendering to a spiritual master. So that is there is a step-by-step process. So that is the bhajana kriya. Then the fourth step is called anartha nivurti. It is a very long step, anartha nivurti, which we discussed in the last verse. Anartha nivurti and nishtha in the 18th verse. Today's verse is next stage. Anartha nivurti is a long step, which is after initiation, just like the fan is running. When you switch off, it will take time to stop, full stop. It's the same way, even after, at the time of initiation, actually, spiritual master is taking our sinful activities, but still it takes time because the proclivity inside the heart is still there to engage, desire to enjoy, desire to engage in sinful activity for our own enjoyment. So that's why it takes time. So we'll try to understand the example, try to understand that what it is. So that is anartha nivurti. Real anartha nivurti is not at the first stage when somebody is approaching Krishna. And that is very preliminary. Next preliminary is when somebody is surrendering to a spiritual master. At all these stages, in the beginning stage there may not be, but when we are approaching more and more to close to spiritual master, surrendering, most of the people will see some transformation, will see some changes. Sometimes the difficulties, sometimes different kinds of problem they have to go through, because karma has to be cut. Whatever bad karma has to be cut. So because so those difficulties means we are shedding off these unwanted karma, sinful activities, and then we are entering. So we have to remove those layers. Then we are getting purified. That's how we have to understand how this karma works. So that is anartha nivurti. The third level is after initiation. The real anartha nivurti begins. The actual inside the heart, not the outside layers are all gone now. The inside layers are coming out now, one by one. So as you clean outside the house, the outer layers inside the house. But then when you start cleaning inside the house, every day we have to clean. We can see the dust, how much it accumulates. One day we don't clean. In India, in those old days, everybody used to clean every day. Yeah, not just even every day they used to clean in the morning itself. They sprinkle the water, everything. Because that is what supposed to be done. Same way that is external to the body, to the place where we live. But internally also to our actual soul must be purified every day. That is done through this chanting and hearing. So that's why it is very important. So now today's verse we are discussing about the after this anartha nivurti, then nishta, then that those two are discussed in the previous verse, which is called nasta prayeshu abhadreshu. This praya and abhadra, these impurities, abhadreshu nityam bhava, by how this anartha nivurti will happen at greater extent is by hearing regularly Srimad Bhagavatam, reading and hearing Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, all these transcendental topics. Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naisti. Gradually we will come to that Nishta stage. What is that Nishta stage? It is fixed up Krishna consciousness, irrevocable. That's why when this verse begins with, what does it begin with? Tada. At that time, what is at that time means? Tada Rajas Tamo Bhava. Raja means passion, Tamo means ignorance, mode of passion, mode of ignorance, Tamo Bhava. When will this happen? When we come to that nishta, irrevocable living. Irrevocable means we are fixed. We will never go back to the previous condition. We will never go back to the previous state, whatever we are doing before in our life, before coming to this kind of stage, nishta. So that means we are completely confident. We are completely surrendered, taken shelter. We are saying, I am yours and you are mine. We are saying to spiritual master and Krishna. So that kind of stage we are in. So when 75% of anarthas are gone, that's when we come to the nishta stage. So by the time we are fully surrendered, we are fully aware. The knowledge, we come to that at least. So there is no ambiguity or confusions at that point of time. So that is called nishta stage. Now today's verse is talking about the Ruci. So that's why it is mentioned tada. When the living entity comes to this irrevocable loving devotion service, every day, there is no gap, not a single day is getting on without engaging in the service to the Supreme Lord and Spiritual Master. Every day, without a miss. Is chanting, is hearing, is worshipping the deity. So different forms of these 9 types of devotion service is engaging in. So especially within that, there are 5 are very important, which is the regularly hearing, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavata Shravan, associating with devotees, chanting the holy name of the Lord, and then staying at the holy place, Mudra Vas, or making our home temple, or going to temple. So in these ways, so these are the main important things associating with devotees. Worshipping the deity, 5th one, worshipping the deity is also important. In these ways, these are the 5 most important aspects of actually. Even one aspect we take it seriously, just the chanting the holy name, we can perfect. But because our mind and senses are not fixed, So that's why, other than chanting, we don't have attraction for chanting. So Mahaprabhu himself is exhibiting these 10 stages, what we are discussing from Adhav Shraddha to Krishna Prema, is also in parallel, in simile to Chaitanya Charitamrita. Mahaprabhu is giving these 8 verses. It is called Sikshastakam. We chant during Mangalarti. If you visit temples, they chant this Sikshastakam, 8 verses, starting with Cheto Darpanam Ajram Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam Sreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam Anandambudi Vardhanam Pratipadam Purnamrita Swadam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtan. So this is the first cleansing process of clearing all the outer layers of anarthas by chanting and hearing. So that is what Cheto Darpanam, that is what cleansing the mirror of our heart, mirror of our consciousness, mirror of our mind, which is the control of the senses and intelligence. So that is the first step. Then Mahaprabhu himself is expressing that, but I don't have taste. That's why we have to worship the deity. That's why we have to serve the devotees. That's why we have to follow the associate with devotees. All these things must be done. Because otherwise, chanting itself is powerful enough that it can take us back to Godhead. Like Haridas Thakur was chanting throughout the day. Raghunath Das Goswami was chanting. Only 1.5 hours, 2 hours they were sleeping. They were continuously chanting. We are not at that stage. Even to chant even 1 round, 2 rounds, 16 rounds itself is a great difficulty for us. We chant, but not a single drop of tear comes. There is actually no real love. There is no really. We are not crying like when we are born, babies. We are crying. We see in today's verse also. And, this is one of the living entity, how he is born, and as soon as he is born, he is crying. Then Indra had to give his index finger to suck. He was crying so loudly, and then that's why he is called Mandata. So the great king, great sage also, Mandata. So that when we start crying, that is naturally we are crying for mother, crying for milk, crying for mother. So that is genuinely crying. Same with that kind of stage we are not in. So that's why we have to, because we don't have attraction, we don't have actual attachment. We are not feeling that Krishna is there. We are not feeling that Krishna is a person, Krishna is our supreme father. And we are not feeling like he is our parent. We are not feeling like he is our friend. So we are not really feeling that connection. Because that's why the worshipping the deity means we are seeing, we are touching. So all these things are indirectly. If we are not Brahman initiated, we might be doing indirectly. Seeing the deity, seeing the arati, so offering flowers, bringing different fruits or something, various. All these things are done indirectly. Even that is also good to bring us that connection, revealing that relationship with the Supreme Lord. This will increase our attachment to the holy name, increase our actual taste to that chanting. That's why these things, these other processes helps to condense, to actually boil the milk and make it more like rowdy of this, to develop taste for the chanting. Ultimate, the goal of life, ultimate perfection of this bhakti yoga is to actual developing that fixed consciousness and developing taste for the holy name, developing taste for Krishna's names. And so obviously then automatically we serve. So that taste, that's what we have to come to. So that's why this verse is telling tada, when at that time, when we come to that irrevocable living devotion service, tada rajastamo bhava, that means when we give up the passion and ignorance. Raja means passion, because the living entity has 3 modes of material nature, is conditioned with 3 modes of material. Just like when you say this is a golden watch, golden bracelet, what it is made up of gold. Same way, when we say this material nature, it is made up of these 3 modes: ignorance, passion, goodness. Ignorance means more and more sleepy, more and more greedy. So for things, there is no end, no end to the satisfaction. So that is the ignorance. That is in great detail explained in Bhagavad Gita also, chapter 16 or 17, 16, I think. In these 3 modes, what a person is supposed to eat, the eating habits in these 3 modes. How a person eats in mode of ignorance, mode of passion, mode of goodness. Same way, how a person does charity in mode of ignorance, passion, goodness. How one does sacrifice, how one worships, how one attain happiness, looks for happiness. One who is in the mode of ignorance, what kind of happiness he looks after? He looks for things. One who is in the mode of all these things are in detail explained by Lord Krishna in chapter 16 of Bhagavad Gita. So we are just going in brief. So that's why ignorance mainly means this greed and the lobha and sleep, indolence, especially very lazy. So that is the characteristic of the ignorance. He doesn't want to do. The ignorance also means he will like to do whatever he likes. It is by mental speculation. He will use his own thoughts. He doesn't follow any shastra. He doesn't follow any authority, neither his parent nor anybody's guidance. He will want to do whatever he likes. So wherever he likes, he will give charity. Whatever he likes, he will do that kind of sacrifices. So there is no actual purpose why he is doing, what is ultimate goal, nothing. He doesn't know anything. He is fully ignorant of those facts. So completely against Shastra. So that the passion means completely desiring. So kama, that is mentioned, desiring means for things. Kama lobhada yechi. So that's why and then finally coming to the goodness. When we give up these lower modes, the passion and ignorance, then we come to this goodness. Completely when we give up, then we come to that unalloyed goodness. So then in order for us to actually develop Ruci, that means we have to feel that we are servant of Krishna. I don't possess anything. So that's why Mahaprabhu is chanting that verse. Ananda tano ja kinkaram patitam mam vishame bhavam bhujau. Krupaya tavapada pankaj sitaduri sadrusam vichintaya. So then his tears are flowing because he has developed Nayanam Galada Srudharaya Vadanam Gadgada Hridaya Gira Pulakay Nichitam Vapu Tavanama Grahanena Bhavishyati. So because he has developed at that time, before that he was saying Nam Akari Bhaudana. I don't have any taste, even though he invested all these energies. Because Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram means he is feeling that I am the servant of that personality, not Dwaraka Krishna, not Mathura Krishna. Specifically Vrindavan Krishna, Nanda and Yashoda's son, because that is he is the Shyamasundar Krishna, he is the topmost, the exalted, the topmost form. Within Krishna's form also there are 3 different levels, and this is the topmost form of Shyamasundar Krishna, who is specifically in Vrindavan, because more highest rasa. So everything is exhibited there, full in full. So that's why. So specifically Mahaprabhu is praying, Mahaprabhu is showing by his example this prayer. So that is actual Ruci. So that means we have to feel that we are servant. We are dependent on Lord's mercy. We are dependent. Feel that we want to serve Him. We are so much attached. That's when this rasa, Ruci, the taste comes when we give up. There are 2 ways. The one way to do is to following this austerity and charity. Tapasa brahmacharyena samena damena va tyagena nimena va tyagena satya sauchabhyam yamena nimena va. So by following this various austerities, tapasa, brahmacharya, following the strict vows to not to engage in any religious activities. So tapasa brahmacharya samena damena cha, controlling his senses, controlling the mind, tyagena. So giving up unwanted things, yama and nima, what to do, what not to do, following rules and all. This is the process, but this is the longest process, longer process. It takes long time, many lifetimes. But the next process, direct process, is taking a lift, elevator, is directly Krishna consciousness, especially Bhakti Yoga process. So that's why easy. So the example of this verse is Tada Rajas Tamo Bhav Kamalobhada Yesche Cheta Yetai Ranavitam Sitam. When we come to how will we come, we can see the example of Saubhari Muni, how he has, because simply the proclivities are there, his heart was not purified. So he was engaged in various austerities. The way he performed, basically Saubhari Muni, before that there's the king Yuvanasva, one personality. This is in the 9th canto, I think 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Yuvanasva, he had this in Vishnu Puran, this is also in Srimad Bhagavatam. Yuvanasva he had many wives, but he didn't have a son. Then they did Putra Kamashti Yajna, and then the whole night went on, then they felt asleep, then they stopped the Yajna, and then the water which is filled with sanctified mantras, which is very powerful mantras, But then this Yuvanasva came and drank in the night. He didn't know that that water is actually kept for the yajna, continuation of the yajna, and it is filled with all these mantras which these brahmanas chanted for this yajna. He drank it. Then they told, now your wife supposed to drink that, but then you drank it. Then actually son will be born from you. So from male it is born. See, this cannot happen in Kali Yuga. So this is happening before. So this is in Treta Yuga. Treta Yuga, I think. So finally he is born from the right side of the abdomen. The baby is born from the right side of the abdomen. And then as soon as he was born, he was crying. Then the Indra came and gave index finger to suck for this baby. Because these four fathers helped in fighting with demons at the time, helped the demigods. So then that's why he's called Mandata. The name was given Mandata. He became a great sage, great king. He was ruling the whole planet, Bharatavarsha, everything. One king as a monarchy. So he was ruling. So that time, so the Mandata had 3 sons and then 50 daughters. 3 sons and 50. One of them is Ambarish Maharaj's son. Mandata, you can see how great sage and great devotee he is. Otherwise, how can he have Ambarish Maharaj, a great devotee? And he also had this also the other personality, Muchukunda, which we see in Lord Krishna's pastimes. So another person, third one I forget. 3 sons and then 50 daughters. Then this Saubhari muni who had attained 8 mystic perfections, Anima, Lagima, Prakamya. That means smaller than, he become smaller than smallest. He can become higher, huge, heavier than the heaviest. He can become lighter than lightest. He can, through sun rays, he can enter into some planet. He can bring something which is not there, which is there and at a very distant place immediately. So these are all mystic perfections. Yogis, after so many years and lifetimes of tapasya only, they can attain this perfection. But still it is material. Still it is material. So that's why there are 3 levels. There's karmis, jnanis and yogis. Finally the bhaktis, devotees. So they're always, the first level is engaged in fruitive activity. Bogis. They want to enjoy. That's why this is in the passionate state, desiring things. That's why it is mentioned, Sada Samudvignadiyam Asat Graha. They are thinking this temporary as permanent, they are trying to enjoy. That is God. But then what will it bring? It will bring anxiety. It will bring anxiety. We can see from Saubhari Muni, great mystic, after performing what he says at the end when he realized what he has done wrong. And so we have to take a lesson from him. So where Saubhari Muni, so after performing so many mystic perfections, he was meditating where? This is Mandata, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Mandata is the king of Mathura. He was ruling everywhere, but he is situated in Mathura. There, Yamuna river is there, obviously, in that area, Mathura and Vrindavan. So there, in that, below in Yamuna river, that great sanctified river, Yamuna is very much sanctified river, Lord Krishna's greatest devotee, Yamuna. So he is sitting inside the river and he is meditating. He is performing severe austerities, this Saubhari Muni. And then while doing that, he saw a fish, male and female fish having a union. Then he saw that he was attracted. Then immediately he had a desire. Then he came out. He was very old. This is not a 1-2 days, as you can see in this Kumbh Mela, when Prabhupada went there. Even now, whenever Kumbh Mela happens, these Babas, yogis come 200,000, 2,000 years, 5,000 years old. They can live because of that some minimum perfections they have. Not the highest like Saubhari Muni. That cannot happen in this Kali Yuga. It's very rare to see that. So Saubhari Muni had that perfection. Then he went as that in that old dress only, as a sage. He was a sage. He was a Muni. Then he went and approached Mandata to give his one daughter to marry. So this desire. See, he was a sage. He was performing so much austerity. That's why this proclivity within the heart, by following the process number 1, tapasa brahmacharya, that's what he's doing. But he didn't perfect. After so long he was doing. After so long. So you can imagine, the process 1 is not a great process Krishna himself is telling in Bhagavad Gita. So that's a process. Two is the best process. So then he approached the king. Then Mandata said, I cannot give whatever they desire in our process. Whatever our queens, whatever my daughters desire, they choose. They choose. So it is not based on my selection. So if they are ready to marry you, that's fine. So you can approach them. So then he said, because by seeing his old age, how can I give my daughter to this age, this person who is very old? So indirectly he mentioned like that. Then he went, he could understand. Then he immediately went. He, by mystic perfection, he changed into a great Gandharva, a very beautiful king, Yuvraj. Then he went and he went to that palace. Then all the 50 queens, daughters saw, then everybody wants to marry him by seeing his beauty, because by his mystic purpose he could do that. So Saubhari Muni, then he finally they all married him. They all went, and then so how did he marry? It's just like but it's very minimal compared to the like in Supreme Lord Krishna. He is the supreme personality. He is minute, just using mystic perfection. So we call Vishwakarma. He is not a material person. He is a demigod. He called Vishwakarma, and then he created 50 palaces for 50 wives, 50 palaces. And each palace has almost like Kardam Muni has, not the same exactly, but lower than that. He had every facility available in all these 50 palaces, all kinds of facilities. You name it, everything he had. By his mystic perfection, he could create. By calling Vishwakarma, he could create these 50 palaces. And when one time the Mandata came to see how his daughters are doing, then he approached and he saw, he was mesmerized. He asked, then they all approached. Only one complaint we have is, he was not spending that same time with my sisters. Each one told that he could, by his mystic perfection, he could. He is not like Lord Krishna, where Lord Krishna personally is there. In each and every form, he expanded. So with his vibhuti, his potency, he could, Krishna can do anything. He can expand. Like in Rasalila also, he expanded with each and every one. Every gopi, he was there personally. But here, obviously, it is not the case. Mystic perfection, they feel, every queen felt that he is there always with them only. So that's what then Mandata was very much astonished. How could this be? He was puzzled. And they had everything. So they said, we are all happy. We have every facility by our husband's power, potency. We got everything. We are happy here. But we still look for to come to the native place. So just to satisfy Mandata, they told him. Then after they finally went back, then Saubhari Muni had 150 sons from these 50 daughters. And then they also had also sons. These 150 got married and they had sons. Then Saubhari Muni realized, after all this happened, oh, what have I done? Now the great grandchildren also is going to come. How long? There is no end to this body. There is no end to this enjoyment. I was simply performing nicely, performing austerities, and by simply seeing the fish, and then I was agitated. So, and then I was simply caught up in this. There it is mentioning that just like when the fire is ignited, fire is going on, if you put ghee, what will happen? It will keep on increasing. It will never end. So as you desire, as you are enjoying, trying to enjoy, desiring, enjoying, this will go on. There is no end. There is no complete end to it. We can go on. So Saubhari Muni realized that this is not going to end. This enjoyment, this is temporary, flickering happiness. That's why it is mentioning that Prahlad Maharaj mentioned to Hiranyakashipu, his own father, is Tatsadu manne asuravarya dehinam yatvatma sada samudvignatiyam asatgal yatvatma patam gromanta gopun amanangatova harimashrayat. You must approach Lord Hari. Go to forest and approach and worship Lord Hari, because you are thinking that this is permanent. I am God. Everybody has to worship me. Hiranyakashipu was thinking. So because you are accepting asat, impermanent thing as permanent. Sada samudvigna. Because of that, always you are in anxiety. Who's going to kill me? Who's going to come and snatch things? That's why did you, otherwise, if you are not in fear, why did you go to Brahma and ask for immortality? That means you know that you are going to die. And that's why you asked, nobody can kill this way, that way, all these things. Why did you ask otherwise? So that means he knows, but still he is acting like. And that's why Prahlad Maharaj is clearly instructing, Sada Samadvignadiyam Asadgraha. You accepted impermanent as permanent. So then that's why your best approach is to worship Lord Hari. So Asuruvarya, demon, master of demons. So in this way, he is telling. So here also Saubhari is instructing. So as I started putting in this material world of fire, of this material enjoyment, material life, I am trying to put more and more enjoyment, desiring things and enjoying. Then there is no end. Now great grandchildren is going to come. I had to put end to it. I completely forgot my sadhana, my actual attaining the ultimate goal of attaining Krishna Prema. I completely forgot. Then he realized, beautiful words are there. So then he went, then he realized that's when he started. He left, what he did, he followed Vanaprastha ashram. He took all his wives also, 50 of them, they all went, followed. There also Prabhupada gives very nice instruction. Even they were not qualified, they were not actually intelligent, they were not aware of this process of Bhakti Yoga, process of spiritual perfection. They just simply followed her husband. So then finally he went to the place, to the forest. Then he performed severe austerities and followed the worshipping Lord Vishnu. But severe austerity, but worshipping Lord Vishnu. So they also followed. Wives also followed exactly her husband. So her husband first attained perfection. She entered into the fire at the end and then attained into Vaikuntha. Then it is mentioned even their wives also, after the husband left, even they could also attain, because by following exactly as their husband, then they are also able to attain the perfection. So Prabhupada is instructing. So if husband is Krishna conscious or wife is Krishna conscious, then the husband should serve, should follow, same way, vice versa. So whoever is Krishna conscious, whoever is following, then one must serve in that way. Naturally, they will be able to attain that perfection. So this is the Saubhari Muni's example. We can see how this material fire, where Prabhupada also gives that example of the same fire, where we are like a matchstick, we are the stick, and then the Supreme Lord is like the matchbox. So we have to actually light up in order to actually, how can fire to come, in order to purify ourselves, actual fire to come, then it must be dry, the stick must be dry, the matchbox must be obviously dry. So that is why the process of Bhakti Yoga is drying process. That means we have to make sure we cannot keep on putting water. So that means the simple activity, the passionate activity, the ignorant activity is nothing but the putting water into the process. You are engaging, one day you are chanting, and the next minute, okay, I chanted, then let me continue to engage. Yes, initially, yes, we don't know, we are not yet purified, we may do, but after, as we keep chanting, as we hear, then gradually we have to take steps, taking this instruction and putting into practice slowly and gradually, progressing in that way. Or if we continue to do same things without changing, bhakti means, Krishna is mentioning in Bhagavad Gita, out of 5 aspects, karma is the most important. And the whole purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to transform our activities. Internal consciousness means we have to day-to-day basis what activities we should do, with what consciousness I should do. That is the main important thing. So then that material karma will transform into spiritual karma. Then it is not binding. Then we can come to that 100% purification, go back to our original place. That is the whole process. And so that's why the process of Bhakti Yoga is actually drying this. Whatever wetness, whatever desires are there, that is actually naturally, it is a gradual progress. That is, it is called a regulation. Krishna is not saying become desireless. It is a regulation. That's what we see in the example of Yayati. What is happening the other way? That has happened by the will of the providence. When Yayati went to the forest for hunting, then he found Devayani in the well, without clothes, because they had a Devayani, who was the daughter of Sukracharya, spiritual master of demons. Sukracharya, then she had a friend, also Sarmishta. So they both had argument. They both were having taking bath. Then Narada Muni was walking. No, Lord Shiva was walking at that time with Parvati ji. Then they covered. They understood. Then immediately they covered with clothes. But by mistake, Sarmishta took her clothes, Devayani's clothes. Or then immediately Devayani. No, the Devayani took Sharmishta's. Then Sharmishta chastised Devayani, and that how could you take clothes? How could you take my clothes? So heavy chastisement. Then both ways, both argued. Then finally, actually Devayani did that. Sharmishta took Devayani's clothes. Devayani is the daughter of Sukracharya, because he was the daughter of a Brahmin. So that's why what we are saying, this goodness, passion, ignorance, also categorized in that way. One who is Brahmana is in the mode of goodness. One who is a Kshatriya is in the passion. One who is a Vaishya is in the mode of passion and ignorance combined. One who is Shudra is in the mode of ignorance. This is general categorization based on the Shastra, but it is not. So by birth. It is not by birth. It is based on the general, because from Lord's body, from the Lord's head, Brahmanas are born, and from the hands, Kshatriyas are born. From his abdomen, waist, the Vaishyas are born, or the leg, and the legs, Sudras are born in that way. So that is also divided into 4 categories, and then these modes are also divided. Each and every living entity is categorized in these ways. Actually, when any living entity you take a tree, you take animal. If it is a mode of good, like cow is considered a mode of goodness. The dog is considered like a dog, cat are considered mode of ignorance in the animal category also. Different grades, because to the degree we can see the purpose, the benefits what they give. Cow, everything is beneficial. The milk, you name it, everything about the cow. So everything is useful, end to end. Nothing is unuseful. Cow dung, everything, you name it, cow urine. So that's why it's a mode of goodness. Same way, a tree which gives the flowers and fruits and shade, everything is useful of the tree, that is in the mode of goodness. So like this, each and every living species, there is a category of this mode of goodness, passion, ignorance. So that's why this is called 3 modes. 3 into 3, 9, 9 into 9, 81. So there are 8.4 million species of life is there. So because these permutations and combinations, so each and every living species, there is a 3 modes are there. Anyway, in Yayati's case, so then when this happened, then Devayani as a Brahmin, she saw that she is lower than me. Then she chastised Sarmishta like that. Then Sarmishta got very upset and angry, was chastising like this. Then Sarmishta also, she throwed her into a well without having clothes. She take away clothes and then she throwed her. Then she left. Sarmishta left. Then when the Yayati came there while hunting, then she saw. Then finally, then he married. She asked, then since you gave your hand to bring me up, then marry me. Then that way they got married. Then later on when they approached the king, also then they had a condition that even all there was a curse. Then they approached basically Devayani told his father what has happened, how this Sarmishta behaved in this way. Sarmishta was a daughter of a king. Then basically his father went and approached the king. Then the king was very much fearful. And before that, I want to tell also Saubhari Muni. Why did he? The greatest mistake. Why he was able to? Why he has especially desiring to enjoy? Why he fell down from his position? It is mentioned. He was a Vaishnava offense was done. Vaishnava offense was done. That's why he has come to this stage. So because one time when Garuda was trying to eat fish, because obviously Garuda is the bird, but he was not an ordinary living entity like us. He was the carrier of the Lord. That's a different pastime altogether. But here, so the Garuda trying to eat fish, then he took that fish, he didn't allow that fish so to be eaten by Garuda, the Saubhari muni. Then that's when that is a Vaishnava offense. So with our external vision, external with the mind, we try to think in different ways, but we should take as it is. So here, because that's where Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is commenting and saying, this is a Vaishnava offense. One who is obstructing a Vaishnava in doing his activity, because it is very difficult for a living entity to understand Vaishnava Kriya Mudra, it is mentioned, to understand the actual pure Vaishnava, pure devotee's activities, what he is doing, why he is doing. We may think something by looking at externally and feel something, oh, this may not be right. But that is not for ordinary living entities to judge, or ordinary devotees or common devotees to judge the pure devotee, like the spiritual master. Even when he goes to some place where he's not supposed to go, so he might have, he definitely has a purpose why he's going there. So we shouldn't be thinking in a different negative way. So that's what happened. He obstructed Saubhari muni. Then because of that, he fell down. So where Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is commenting that, Prabhupada is also commenting that one must not obstruct, the pure Vaishnava. Yeah, where I'm trying to read that, where it is mentioned. I wrote somewhere. But anyway, so that is one of the verse. This is ninth canto, chapter 6. One of the verse it is mentioned. Yeah, 9 648 or 50. One must not impede the activities of a Vaishnava. And then there it is quoted also Chaitanya Chandrodaya Nataka, that Nishkinchanasya Bhagavad Bhajanon Mukasya Param Param Jagamishor Bhavasagarasya. One must not associate with the materially those who are trying to enjoy a mode of ignorance, too much intimate association. We should try to give up. So in this way we can see that example. So this is Saubhari muni, because of that he fell down. But in Yayati's case, by will of the problem, he told Devayani, I cannot marry you because I am a Kshatriya. Devayani is a Brahmana. That's why when Parikshit Maharaj heard from Shukadeva Goswami about Yayati's story, how he married Devayani, then he told, how can this be possible? This is Pratiloma. And Prabhupada quotes that also. In today's world, when they don't, the girl and boy, they don't look at all this when they are in unequal stage. They are not in the both in the same category. Obviously, astrological things also has to be looked at. These things also has to be looked at. Brahmana can marry Kshatriya girl. Brahmana boy can marry Kshatriya, but not the other way. That is Anuloma. It is equal. But when it is done opposite way, then it is called Pratiloma, which is not actually fruitful in many cases. But in this case, it has happened by the will of the providence. By hunting, this has happened. So that's why and then obviously Sukracharya and this. So then Sukracharya, when he approached, then he was very much king was very much, I don't know what, he is going to curse me, because he has heard also from his daughter that what has happened. Then that's why he is very much obliged to Sukracharya, whatever he says. Then Devayani said, I give your daughter to as a maid servant. So Sarmishta became a maid servant to Devayani. So for till whenever. So the king agreed. So then that's how. Then later on, then King Sukracharya told, don't union with this maid servant. So that's going to be a disaster. So that was told by Sukracharya. But later on, when he had a child with Devayani, Yayati, then he saw, Sarmishta also saw this, and then she also wanted to have a child. Then he approached a king. Then that is also Vedic injunction that a king, one lady girl approaches a king and want to have a child, then he cannot reject. This is mentioned when Arjuna came back from, after Krishna left the planet, Arjuna came back from that Mathura, Dwarka to Hastinapur. Then Yudhishthira was asking, why are you like that? Why are you so morose and unhappy? Did you reject a girl, somebody who's approaching to marry you, to have a son with you? So that's why that is one of, so like this many questions this tomorrow asked. That is also one of them. So this is the injection of a king in a Kshatriya thing. So that's why Yayati finally had no choice but to union and have a child with Sarmishta also. Then this news goes to Devayani, and Devayani gives the news to Sukracharya. And then Sukracharya also, there's one thing where when within this argument, Sarmishta tells Devayani that you are accusing me that you are Brahmana, I am Kshatriya. Why you are taken my clothes? You are the lower than me. But actually, it's the other way. We are the Kshatriyas. You are taking our grains. You are begging. You are coming and begging to us, and we are giving you. Actually, you are working under us. So in this way, then when Sukracharya heard this, then he immediately said, "I am giving my profession of this becoming a begging business. I am going to just go to forest, go to agricultural land where I'll just pick up grains, whatever is left of grains after whoever is doing the agriculture from the land, the rest of the grains, whatever is left, I'll take. So I don't beg, I don't work like this under a king." So that's when he left Sukracharya. This is at a later stage. So that is also happened. Then later on, Sukracharya understood what has happened with Yayati and Sarmishta having a child. Then he also told, then because of this, I told you not to do this. Then still you did, so you are going to become old. So then that's because of that curse, Yayati became old. But he didn't regret. Then he told, because Yayati followed Vedic injunctions, that's why I was mentioning, I was giving example because Vedic regulation, one who can have a child in n number of kids, Krishna conscious kids, as long as there is a regulation, it is not to continue go on enjoying, then it will become like Saubhari muni, where there is no end to it for anything, even simple things, whatever you want to enjoy, whether it's coffee, tea, or watching movie, it can be anything, even simple things also. Playing with cell phone, you can endlessly go on. There is no end to it. You can play games on cell phone for years together, lifetimes together. Then there is no end to it. And so, in mode of ignorance, nobody can instruct that person. So the same thing is happening. So because of that desire to enjoy, Saubhari Muni fell down, and also Vaishnava offense is there. But in Yayati's case, he has followed under the regulation. By will of providence, he married Devayani. By the will of the providence, that Sarmishta approached because he has to follow the regulation, injunction of the Shastra, then he had child. So that is not his mistake. But in this case, Sukracharya cursed, you will become old. Then he told, then he accepted, but then he asked, please do something about it, because I didn't do it by my side. They approached, then I had no choice. Then Sukracharya, all right, you can approach one of your son, then you can get your youth back. Then when he approached, then out of all of the sons, there also Prabhupada gives instruction. Only last son, Puru, agreed to that exchange of my old age with your youth. None of the sons agrees. Yadu and others, they don't agree. I don't want to exchange. They want to enjoy. But only Puru agreed. There also Prabhupada is telling, Puru, Prabhupada says there are 4 kinds of people. One who is Putra, and what is the other one? A real son means real disciple, real servant means one who follows instruction without the Guru instructs. Without even Guru is giving guidance, instructing, he knows exactly what to be done. That is the first class disciple. First class son means he knows exactly before his father instructs, he does. So then he was thinking, Puru, even though he agreed, he is thinking, I am not the first class, because before you even asked, I should have known what you are thinking, what you are desiring. So I am not first class. So you can understand the quality of Puru, what consciousness he is operating on. So then the second class is once Guru asks something to be done, that's when he third one is, so despite asking, he may not do. He may do after some time and slowly and, with questions and argument and whatnot. And the fourth class is, he doesn't do at all. He rejects and he does his own things. So that is you mentioned like urine, stool. So he's not Putra, he's not son anymore. So that's why you can understand the consequence. One who doesn't follow the instruction of spiritual master and rejects and does something else completely, that is not only offensive, it is like stool means you can understand. Completely we have no scope when we do like that. So that's why we have to be very careful not to not to go above the spiritual master instruction and strictly try to follow and seek guidance and follow. It is a very, very important point. So there also in this way, Yayati finally, after enjoying with his wife, then he understood. But it is mentioned there, Prabhupada is mentioning, Bhagavatam is mentioning, externally he was seemingly in that enjoyment mood, but internally he is fully conscious. He was executing, he was meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So at the end, he was able to very quickly, because he is following all the way regulations, he is meditating, he was executing his devotion service internally. Gradually he is able to go, finally he is able to attain perfection. But in Saubhari Muni's case, the indirect process, second process he followed, tapasa brahmacharya, that is not direct process. And then he was get attracted and agitated by simply seeing. So that's why this desire proclivity. So the Prabhupada is mentioning our test. Every day we have to see where we are, how much we are progressing. That nobody needs to give certificate. We can know by the degree how much we are of this desire to enjoy anything. So that's a kama and lobha. That's when we know that we are in the this stage, nishtha and ruci stage. So we can see also how much attraction we have for chanting, real taste for everything, all kinds of devotion service. So then obviously we have to see how much we are detached from this kama and lobha, desire to enjoy, greedy for these other things, anything other than the completely serving the Supreme Lord and spiritual master. Desire anything, even small things also. Everything, all these falls under that category. But it's a gradual progress. Obviously, we will not be able to. This is an unalloyed goodness. That's why Prabhupada is explaining in the purport. So we are currently in the diseased state of condition. We have to come to that. Come to the purified state. When the diseased state, when doctor sees the patient, then he gives prescription. He has to follow exactly to that prescription. Otherwise, he cannot cure if he follows his own guidance, own way. So that's why its prescription is to chant the holy name of the Lord. Prescription is to serve the devotees. Prescription is to follow the instruction of spiritual master, follow the authority. Prescription is to worship the deity, offering tulsi leaves. Prescription is to offer prayers to Lord Nityananda Prabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Prescription is in that way. Despite otherwise, we will become like Kaliya Krishna Das. Even though he was there in the association of devotee, but he is keep watering. You are in the association of devotee, you are hearing the instruction, but doing nothing about it. Not only nothing, but actually you are pouring water. Even one round you are chanting and then you are pouring water on more and more sinful activity. You are not curtailing, you are not understanding where we are going wrong. We are not analyzing. There is no plan. There is no thought process. There is no reflection. What is going on in our life? We are just simply going on with the flow. So that is not going to help. So that we have to realize at some point. Nothing is going to happen, because that's why Prahlad Maharaj is mentioning. It is not by somebody's instruction. It has to come we have to come to that self-awareness and then put it into practice. Change our action, course of action. Constantly we have to detect, constantly we have to observe where the mind is going, where the senses are dragging, where the drawbacks are, where it is going. So that's why this leadership training, all these things are there in IT also. They're all same thing. They have to follow, they follow the leaders who are expert in that particular field, and their footstep they follow, and then gradually they also move up in the business, same thing. So same way in spiritual culture also same thing. By following the authority, by following the instructions of Prabhupada, by not watering, keep on putting the water in the process, what we are doing. That means we are going down, not even maintaining it. We'll go down, because more and more we keep on watering, keep on engaging in sinful activity without changing anything. That is passion and ignorance. Then at some point we'll lose the faith. So as Prabhupada, when we don't decorate the deity, then what will happen? We'll blacken our heart. To the extent we decorate the deity, to the extent we chant, we serve, all these things nicely, and decorating means it is nicely done with affection and love. Then to that extent we are able to progress. We are able to give up all lower things. Regulation is maintained. But to the extent we don't do, to that extent our heart becomes more and more filled up. These impurities will keep on piling. This watering is happening, not drying. Drying process is not happening, but watering is happening. We are putting the water, keep on putting the water. So that's why it is very important to extinguish this fire, to extinguish this blazing fire of material desires. Then that's when we come to this pure unalloyed goodness. Then we can taste, right? So otherwise, how can we taste? So that's why it takes time. One who is not addicted, one who is not has tasted Krishna Prasad before, then he is inclined. Even if you offer Prasad, this is I already ate. I don't like this gulab jamun. I don't like these things. He will not accept. But one who knows the actual quality of what Krishna Prasadam means, what is the value, what is the potency, what is the actual real Krishna's mercy, directly Krishna has eaten this and are taking, then that's why Prabhupada never talked while taking Krishna Prasad. Because he's really releasing, he's in that mood. Krishna has tasted it, he's giving me his mercy. So that conception, that consciousness, at least theoretically, we must have it. So that's why it takes time. It is not by somebody's instruction. It has to come. He's telling Hiranyakasipu, Matenna Krishne paratasvato va vidyo abhipadyet grahapratana. Adanta gover panatastamishkam panascharvita charvanana. You are chewing the chewed. Despite I instruct, despite somebody instruct, you are not going to change. Krishna consciousness is not that by simply somebody instructing you will come. No. You have to, by only the dust of the lotus feet of pure devotee, then you will come to that. What is that? Verse I forget, which Giriraj Maharaj is going to speak tomorrow evening on that verse only. That is the dust of the lotus feet of pure devotee. So very important verse. So then by that only you can come. Otherwise it is not possible. So ordinary person or common devotee instructing, it's very difficult. But by the touch of a pure devotee, advanced devotee, then it can change. We will be able to actually put into action. Otherwise, it is not easy. We may hear, but nothing is going to happen. So that's why it is very important. But we should keep hearing, keep associating with devotees by seeing our sincerity and love or attraction. Then gradually, Lord will show the mercy. Lord will transform our heart. But we should try to avoid these offenses. Try to avoid, especially, avoid this watering. Keep on watering. Rather, we follow drying process, follow regulation. Then that will help us. So, any questions? Already 9:30 late. Kali Krishnadas, while he was there, the example, quickly we'll finish that. Kali Krishnadas, even though he was in the association of devotees, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took personally him to all the way to South India Yatra. Then he was attracted by these gypsies who was doing some miracles. Then he was attracted. Then Mahaprabhu has to pull him by the hair and brought him back with him again to Jagannath Puri. When he came back, then he told, I cannot take you anymore, because you are supposed to follow the instruction. You are my associate. What kind of example are you setting? If you are not following, then you cannot be. I am sannyasi. You cannot be acting like this. So then he rejected. But Nityananda Prabhu was very merciful. Then he said, okay, he engaged. He sent him to Sachi Mata's place to Mayapur. There he served. In that way he engaged. So Lord Nityananda Prabhu is very merciful. That's why we have to pray to Lord Nityananda Prabhu to remove our ignorance, increase our spiritual strength, so that we can serve more and more and develop our real attraction and attachment to the Supreme Lord and His devotees. With that, I'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Arvindra, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhaktam ki jai. Any quick questions? Yes, Ashesh Karna Jagannath Prabhu. Any questions? Okay. Thank you. Anybody else has a question on the phone? Okay. Okay. No question. Okay. Thank you. I'll go to the Google Meet. Yes. Any questions on the Google Meet?
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. No question, Prabhuji, today. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.